All right, line up, queue up, and stop your kids from crying. For I have a story, a yarn, a saga that's hungry to be told. I know you've been wandering, and you're tired, but buck up, because the wait is only a minute from this point, and you'll be picking the lane to place you in the cart according to your thrill tastes. How many in your party? Doesn't fucking matter. Because there's plenty of room in this story, no matter where you're at. You're riding in the front car, so tender your tensions, because this is going to be a thrill. Tales are as old as time. Songs, I hear, are as old as rhyme. And that's the beast of it. They're old, and they got more munchies than a freshman on a Sunday. The beauty is, for those whose nerves are about to be shredded by the story, it is a self-driving trip back to the times before. A tale to snatch and hold on to and ride past the past as it tries to flee, as it tends to do. Why? Because time doesn't give a shit about you, that's why. It's got other things going on. We are indeed blessed to be online to a story of the true, actual, and factual days before. And while that can be scary, fuck it, what else you got going on right now? So hey, come here, cut in front of that dick behind me. He's on his phone anyway. I got a ramble for you. Grip your lap bars, this is gonna be quite a ride, but that shouldn't surprise you. You're prepared because life is a ride, man. Sometimes it goes up, sometimes it goes down. Sometimes without any warning, it plunges you down a shaft into darkness on a bromine-scented drain, only to come out the other end damp and confused like a freshman on a Sunday. You never bought the ticket to life. That's on your parents. So you really don't get a choice to ride the ride of life. You just have to hang on as it takes its turns and tumbles and bumps, and sometimes it breaks down halfway up the ramp, and you gotta wait while some teenager runs around delirious in a polo shirt, assuring you that they're working on it, but you both know this is gonna be a while. What I'm saying is, it's not your fucking fault you're here. Somebody else paid for admission. Just ask anyone who ever went to Disneyland as a kid. 100 years ago this year, in the summer of 1923, Walt and Roy Disney founded the Disney Brothers Cartoon Studio in Los Feliz, California, in their Uncle Robert's garage. Moving down the track, they got an office in October of 1923 and changed the name to the Walt Disney Company. The company released a little cartoon in 1928 that was the first successful cartoon with synchronized sound, because back then it was all calliopes, like a clown on Adderall, called Steamboat Willie. And it blew people's fucking minds. Like, you saw Avatar: Way of the Water, right? It's like that, but 100 years ago. Before CGI and Sigourney Weaver, but the plot was about the same. Then, in 1937, Walt Disney Company creates the first full-length color animated film, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. And everybody also lost their collective fucking minds. The color, the technique, the songs will forever season the human brain down to your DNA to pass to your offspring in the future. It was also terrifying. I don't know if you ever remember watching it, but like, go back sometime. And you'll kind of get why everybody, boomers and posts, needs fucking therapy today. Snow White was a huge success, obviously, and with the money, Disney moved the studio to Burbank and started working on a theme park that was supposed to be right next door, but it ended up being too small, so they bought a plot in Anaheim, yada, yada, yada. Disneyland opens in 1955. And as of December 2021, it has had a larger cumulative attendance than any other theme park in the world. And in 2018, it was the most visited amusement park in the world, behind its big baby brother, the Magic Kingdom in Disney World, which is such a big baby brother, by the way, that you can fit the entire Disneyland park into Disney World's parking lot 51 times. And that is why we all pledge allegiance to the mouse every morning, never saying a bad thing about it ever, because it owns you and me right now. And yeah, no matter how much we fight back in the rebellion, as soon as you see Mickey, all bets are fucking off. Because holy shit, there he is. He's right there. Dad, get the camera. Fuck, it's beautiful. The enchantment is unavoidable. Then, 1966, Walt Disney dies. passes it on to a series of CEOs to run the empire, like if Darth Vader biffed it in the first movie, and all the British guys on the Star Destroyer were like, well, fuck, you do it. Then 1984, Michael Eisner takes over as CEO, and in 1989 begins plans for a new vibe for the parks to appeal to teenagers, including a new ride in Disneyland, Where We Lay Our Scene. You see, Disneyland is broken up into a lot of little lands, so you don't get confused. There's Frontierland, Tomorrowland, Adventureland, Fantasyland, Main Street, New Orleans, because how can you have a party without New Orleans? And finally, Bear Country, home to the Country Bear Jamboree. Now, at the time, no one was really hanging out in Bear Country, and of course they fucking weren't. It says Bear Country on the fucking sign. Who would go in there? There's bears. So Eisner goes to his team to come up with something to put in there and changes the name to Critter Country, which is somehow more frightening because I saw that fucking movie. Critters are worse than bears. On the team was Dick Nunez, who, because it's fucking hot in Florida, figured they should put in a log flume ride. That's the amusement park ride where you ride a log down a water slide like it's the 1800s because kids dream of someday working in the sawmill. Also, on the team was Tony Baxter, who came up with the idea for a country mountain ride while stuck in traffic. Decided the ride should be based on an older Disney property that somehow keeps coming back up into theaters called Song of the South. Keep your heads and arms inside the story at all times. No flash photography, even though it's about to get real fucking dark. 1946, Walt Disney produced a film starring James Baskett based on the Uncle Remus stories written by Joel Chandler Harris, who wrote them while he was apprenticing on a plantation. The movie is a delightful romp through the Georgia Reconstruction post-Civil War era. But don't worry, it's where we were first introduced to Zip-A-Dee-Doo-Dah, and it even had Bobby Driscoll in it, for kids. Though it won an Academy Award for said zippeting its doodah, the movie was not very well received. Not just because critics called it pretty but boring, but mostly because the NAACP picketed the movie, condemning it for being, quote, a dangerously glorified picture of slavery. Adam Clayton Powell Jr., a congressman from Harlem, branded the film as, quote, an insult to American minorities and everything that American as a whole stands for. Richard B. Dyer of the Afro-Americans slammed the movie for being, quote, as vicious a piece of propaganda for white supremacy as Hollywood has ever produced. And this was in 1946. Even the star of the movie was not allowed to attend the premiere because Atlanta was still segregated at the time. Plenty of sunshine, my whole ass. But the movie kept creeping out of the Disney vault until 1986, which brings us back to Anaheim, 1989. Please lean your head beds against the headrest as we go over the falls. The Zip-A-Dee River Run was pitched to Eisner as a river ride using the animated characters from Song of the South, in the equally same vibe as the equally terrifying Tales of the Okefenokee Swamp ride from Six Flags Over Georgia from the 60s, also based on the Uncle Remus stories, but somehow even more racist. Eisner agreed to it, but figured they should change the name to Splash Mountain, not to avoid the connection to the Cartoon Confederacy, but because Disney, and this is so true, but because Disney had just produced a delightful rom-com with Tom Hanks and Daryl Hannah that he wanted to promote called Splash. He even wanted to have a mermaid featured on the ride, but the team was like, no, but we'll keep the racist swamp creatures, as if to add more ghosts to this already haunted ride. The ride would use prefabbed and recycled animatronics from the Deep South portion of an old Disney show called America Sings that closed in 1988. And somehow, to make it even worse, in 1974, one of the employees that worked on that show was killed by the ride itself. And you can Google that later, but I promise you, it's an even darker dive than Splash Mountain. So yeah, Disney opened Splash Mountain on July 17th, 1989 in Disneyland. And then in 1992 in Disney World and Tokyo Disney, spreading like the VHS from The Ring across the world until March 2020, when Disney CEO Bob Iger announced that after petitions, backlashes, and just like finally acknowledging it's a cursed fucking ride, Splash Mountain would be closing and be reimagined as Tiana's Bayou Adventure from The Princess and the Frog. And then, on July 23rd, 2023, it began. Splash Mountain in Disney World took its final plunge. The original in Disneyland is slated to close soon. People, of course, because America, TikTok their opinions. Most of them the kind of folk that didn't find the Phantom Menace offensive either. Not because of Jar Jar Binks. Ahmed Best did his best. The other vaguely racist aliens. Others didn't give a shit because revamping, rebooting, reimagining is just how Disney do. But for my fucking money, I'm goddamn glad that cursed fucking slip and slide is fucking closed because it was goddamn terrifying. Do you remember that thing? First off, you're riding on a log, no seatbelts, then you're floating quietly through what looks like an abandoned sawmill, but there's all these little voices singing all around you, not saying hey, not looking you in the eye, just singing behind shut doors like they know something you don't. Turns out they do, because then you drop suddenly down slip and falls, no warning, no sign, just a lawsuit waiting to happen before being plunged into a cave filled with singing creatures bugged out like they all did acid and didn't tell you. And then you watch as a bunny is hunted by a fox and a big-ass bear, pantsless like something out of Deliverance, while rodents start singing about how you better watch out. And then the warning signs, and then a thunderstorm, and then you slide under a trio of horny-looking vultures tricked out like oil tycoons before falling 40 miles an hour into a thorn bush, only to find out it's not a thorn bush, but where the rabbits live, interrupting their chill time like you just walked into the wrong apartment before getting jammed on the turn and then out of this fucking nightmare, which we all are now, humans. And as the dust settles from the construction, banishing this doomed shoot from this earth, the comment section smoking from those yearning for a past that, like the ride itself, was far more threatening than they remember, we can drink off the trauma. Because my, oh my, plenty of sunshine is headed our way because it's Zip-A-Dee-Doo-Done. That's the truth. That's factual. Please exit through the gift shop.